Hey, it's me again. Part 3. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2, go and watch part 1 and 2. But this is part 3 of using these presentation decks for screen shares, which I've talked about. This one is definitely for more of an advanced use case, and it's slightly different from what I've been talking about before. Before, what I've always been talking about is not making any changes to your underlying deck. In this particular case, I'm going to say there is an alternative use case here for this profile, but as I say, it's a little bit advanced, and so take a deep breath and sit back and have a think about what I'm going to tell you here. And this is very simply a concept of having a mini deck. So I've got myself live, potentially Neil in the center there is live in Keynote. He could be the host with me as a guest and Sheena as a guest, and in the middle we could have our mini deck, as I would call it. So if I go to my mini deck and I get my little clicker out and click my mini deck, I could have a mini deck going on in the center of my screen. So let's just flick on another couple of scenes, and you can see that that's working really nicely and looks pretty cool as a smaller deck. But in fact, we've still got this sort of widescreen aspect between the two of us, and we're both showing up as, you know, decent sized images on the screen. So let me bring on another one here. So here what we can see is that the deck itself is cropped off because I've not set that one up as a mini deck. So what do I mean by mini deck? I mean, what I would ask either my client or myself to do is just to not use the side of the screen where Sheena is. So the whatever it is, 25-30% of the screen there, just leave that bit blank and only use the left hand 2/3 to 3/4 of the screen for your deck to get this kind of mini deck thing going on between the two of us. Now, a couple of other things that you need to do there as well is you're going to find that you need to have Sheena sitting above the deck rather than beside the deck in this particular mini deck use case. So let us have a look at that by going into my Bet Noir live demo mode. So window, options, live demo mode, turning on demo mode. Now this scene isn't actually in the decks, you would have to go and create it yourself, but over here I have got a scene for host and mini deck, and within that I've got a bunch of overlays. But what I've actually done here is taken the screen share, which would normally be up at the very top, and I've dragged that below where Sheena's camera is, so that that then fits. And if I go back on my slide deck, then we're back into the one that actually fits. So all I'm doing is taking the screen share and putting Sheena over the top of it. So why would I do that, I suppose? I just think it's a nice look and feel. I'm going to come out of live demo mode in a moment. Wrong way, Martin, always the wrong way. Not that way, this way. Options, come out of live demo mode. So I just think it's a nice sort of look and feel. Now I could equally as well have 2 or 3 people sitting either side of this mini deck, and what I could then do is just advance the deck in any way that I would normally do. And what that means is I'm able to do this and look pretty cool and have my deck being shared. But this is something you couldn't do in just Keynote Live, because that's only going to allow you to have your one camera or another camera connected to the network that you've currently got. So strictly speaking, there are ways that you could do it by bringing multiple cameras in from different locations, but it's pretty awkward to do that. This way, all I'm doing is just using Ecamm and then having my center deck as a mini deck. So I think it's a very nice look and feel for something that's neat and allows us to be a bit more flexible with our screen estate. So hopefully that makes sense. There are clever ways that you could potentially share an Ecamm window with the whole of your deck in Keynote and then share that into Zoom or to MS Teams, but I'll come to that at a later date. for the moment, what I wanted to demonstrate was there is a very neat way that you can come in and that you can go play about with a little mini deck and have a live person in the middle of the mini deck as well, if that's what you wanted to do, and just flick through your scenes for a mini deck. So that's the concept for a mini deck. It's not in there as a setup scene, so you'd need to go play about with that. And as I say, it's kind of a little bit different from what I'm suggesting, which is not to change the decks. But if you are going to change the decks, it's much easier to just shift everything to one side a little bit, and then things will balance out nicely in this type of format. So all I've actually done is copy and paste my camera and the bit above me and move them to the other side of the screen and align them in Ecamm, so that either side of the screen I've got two Ecamm images, and those are both Ecamm cameras coming in interview mode. So if you can get your head around that, well done, congratulations. I think that's probably the last one I'm going to do for this evening, before timing out on all of this. For the moment, I really need to get to do these explainers in a lot more detail, but that's for another day. I'm hoping that people who are already good with Ecamm will pick this up and be able to use it very easily. So it's another hint and tip on doing something a little bit differently. Okay, see you later. Cheerio.